Today then we shall be taking a look at the Jaws franchise and ranking all of the Jaws movies from worst to best, going through the classic 1975 movie Jaws all the way up to the 1987 movie Jaws the Revenge. So without further ado, let's get into this iconic franchise. In last place then is Jaws 3, as this movie for me not only is the worst Jaws movie out the lot, but also one of the worst horror movies or even normal movies ever made, as I don't get why this was made. It turned the franchise into a money grab, as the first two movies are pretty good. The first one is amazing, one of the best movies ever made. Then the second one really sort of captures the same sort of things as the first one, but just not as good. Whereas this one just went completely in a different direction, and most franchises on that third movie tend to fall into the rabbit hole of just turning it into a money grab, and that's what this movie presented Jaws with, the fact that the series had now become a money grab rather than a new sequel that was going to be entertaining and as entertaining as the first two. And to me, they weren't just that annoyed me about this movie. The fact that most of the original cast were in it, the fact that the visual effects were just plain awful, and the story was just shite. As the sea aquarium and the going on the massive killing spree just in this aquarium thing, it just didn't really fit with me. The fact of the matter was that people in the first two movies were getting killed at sea, and that people just out and about was getting killed because they were just out swimming or whatever, and that was the point of Jaws. And yeah, I just don't think this really showed and built upon what the first two movies did. The only positive for me is the actress Lea Thompson, as she was brilliant. She is the mostly known for her role in the Back to the Future franchise, playing the character of Lorraine. However, she was the only bright spark in this movie, and that's why I think this is bottom tier bullshit and not to be watched again, as it's one of the worst movies ever made in my opinion. So let's move on. In third place then is Jaws the Revenge, as the movie wasn't the best of movies, and this probably shouldn't have been made, as Jaws 3 was terrible. This movie though has a decent story, however the ending was very underwhelming, and if this had a great ending, this could have been a good Jaws sequel. However, this isn't the case, as this movie really focused on constantly linking this movie to Jaws 1, with several flashbacks to the likes of Chief Brody, which to me was good in parts. However, it more felt like it was trying to piggyback on previous success instead of using the sequel to create more success for the Jaws franchise. Although I did like elements of the story, as I really enjoyed the fact of the shark trying to kill off Brody's family, and Brody is made out to have been killed by a shark as well, and that he was chased down all his life. This movie of the shark finally getting killed once and for all by his wife just seemed a bit strange and a bit weird to me. But overall, this movie is quite weak. However, this movie does include the icon Michael Caine as well, in which is a bonus. In second place, obviously, this is going to be Jaws 2. Anybody that thought this was going to be Jaws 1, obviously, get your head checked out, man. But yeah, this to me was a decent Jaws sequel, in my opinion, as it is very underrated and was quite good and still quite entertaining, and brought a lot of Jawsy things about it, as it still had the OGs, including Chief Brody, Roy Schneider, and still had that Jawsy sort of feel to it, as the movie was brilliant as a good part of the franchise, and to me it gets overlooked sometimes because of the poor sequels that followed this one. And of course it was never going to be as good as the first one, but as a decent little sequel of Jaws, I would bang this on. The only really bad thing about this one is the fact that there's a lack of gore and violence, as the movie jumped down in age rating, and this can clearly be seen in this movie, as it seemed they cut back on the bloody side of things that the first one does so well. So finally, in first place is one of the greatest movies ever made, and clearly Spielberg's best ever movie, Jaws. Well, it's up for debate, but I think Jaws is the best. This movie, in my eyes, has everything that a horror movie sort of should have, as Spielberg takes a lot of inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock movies, as he uses a lot of suspense in these movies to implement the sides of fear rather than doing the modern day thing of jump scares. Also, I don't think this movie gets enough credit, as people overlook it as it's not a horror movie. However, I think any movie that makes you scared of something for such a long time, and this is what this movie did, as people to this day are still afraid to go into the water due to their fears of sharks, and that was created through this type of movie and the likes of Deep Blue Sea and things like that. And the Meg constantly put that threat of sharks are a danger and a real big fear to people. Overall, though, this movie is a masterpiece, and if you want to hear more of my opinion on this movie, check out my Jaws movie review in the description, in which there should be a nice little link for you to click onto. To conclude, Jaws will always be one of the biggest horror franchises ever made, and I hope you have enjoyed this ranking video, but before you leave, let me know your rankings of this movies down in the comments below. Also, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell to be alerted to all the new content this channel creates. And I shall see you guys in the next one.